Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It is the last Friday of this holy month of Ramadan. Welcome to Ramadhan Synchronised. This is the RoundTable with me, Aisha Khan, talking about thorny issues. Almost half, 49% of refugee children in Kenya are not attending school. Only less than 1/3 of refugee school children are attending secondary school. 87% non-Muslim community. To raise funds, CR and UN Refugee Agency have come together for this 3293, and lastly help spread the word across social media, emails, and in conversation with each other. What rape is. Sexual abuse are everyday violent occurrence. With Riziki Kaluki, who is a psychologist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Then I have Abdinasir, who is a human rights activist. And then I have, of course, our very own Sheikh Ibrahim, Lithome. But first, before we get into this issue, and understanding what rape is, I went on the ground, found a victim of rape, and did an interview. I want us all here in the studio and also my audience out there to pay key attention to this story. And of course, all protocols are observed. Amina Mohammed, take it away. At what age and how did it all happen?
So, I think I was between 8 to 10 years. At home, we usually have a culture of, girls usually serve boys food, and the little girls serve, elder boys, and then the women serve the men. So I was given a plate to go and take to my cousin's side of the house. We usually have different houses at home. We have 3 or 4 homesteads for married couples, and then one for the grandmother and the granddaughters, and then one for the boys. So it's a short distance. It's not a very long distance to walk. So I took the senior, and then I went to the hut. When I got in there, I told my cousin, here is your food, I brought you your food. So he just pulled me by my hand and he put me in his room. He threw me on his bed. It was, there are usually 3 of them. One of them was showering, so he was not around. He was at the back side. And then the other one, after the second one pulled me, he just ran out and left. So when he threw me on his bed, of course the plate fell down. I started wondering what was going on. And this is a cousin of mine whom we talk every day, we laugh together, we eat together. So I didn't expect any harm to happen to me. And then he just threw me on the bed and grabbed my hands, both of my hands, and put them above my head and pinned me down on his bed with one hand. And then with the other hand, he put it on my mouth so I couldn't scream. And at that moment, I realized something was happening here. It wasn't, jokes or anything. So I started struggling with him. I tried screaming, I couldn't scream. At that time, I was that young, and he was in college at that time. He tore my trouser from my waist. He just tore it. When he did that, I started getting scared. I continued to still try and fight him. But the moment he put his legs between mine and put them apart, I stopped fighting. I realized there's nothing I can do. And at that time, I didn't know what was happening to me, but I knew that this was something bad. And I don't quite remember my reaction at that time, but I remember my eyes welling, and I looked at him in sorrow, like I was crying for help to him, and he didn't care. He just continued to do whatever he was doing on top of me. After he finished, to me it seemed like an eternity, and I was in so much pain. I could not understand that kind of pain at that time. And I don't think in my life I have been in so much pain. Maybe emotionally, but not like physically and psychologically. So when I left there, I realized everybody had finished eating and nobody even noticed I wasn't there. At that time, I was facing a lot of trouble with my stepmother, being raised with her. She really didn't treat us well, and my dad did not give much attention. My mom wasn't around. So I left the house, I ran to the washroom, and when I started bleeding, to me, I thought to myself that something had happened to me, but I didn't understand what had happened. I was just in pain and I was bleeding, and I couldn't understand why I am bleeding and why I'm in such pain and why my cousin did that to me. In Swahili, we call them kaka. So in my mind, I was like, why kaka has done this to me, you know, and what's...
And there was an instance where you went and told your auntie.
My auntie.
How did she react?
She just looked at me and she said, that will not go anywhere. That won't go anywhere. If you have anything like that to report, do you want to get married to your cousin? I lost trust in men, all men, no matter who they are, even my brother. I hated my father for a very long time in my life. I just felt like he was there, you know, and as a daughter, as a young girl, having gone into a men's house and not having come out for I don't know how long, and not having eaten that time, I expected that he would say something, he would react, he would ask. He did not. I felt like he did not care. So I lost trust in men. I hated them, beginning with my dad. So there was this one guy who came home and asked for my hand in marriage, and we had spoken for almost a month, and everything was okay, and I was seeing my, you know, you hear wedding bells. And that day he asked me, are you a virgin? And then I told him, no, I'm not a virgin. Right there he just said, I cannot marry you. And I remember myself asking him that same question in the beginning of our talks, and I didn't mind that he was not a virgin himself, that he had started, you know, sexual activities with other women. But when I said I was not a virgin, he just said, I cannot marry you. So I just feel like I really can never find someone who could understand this. I'm not even hopeful that one day I would possibly settle in a marriage.
What is the solution to this? Today it's happened to you, and there are millions of girls out there, it is happening to them. What next?
You know, it is very surprising that this happens, not even by people who pass by your house and see you go to the shop. You know, it's happening with family members. Most. It's very shameful. I feel like there's some shift, there's some change that needs to happen in the way we deal with issues, in the way we just mingle with our kids, yeah? Because when I was growing up, my dad was never close to me because he believed he was a man and I'm a girl, and there's nothing he can tell me, you know, there's nothing we can share. But there's a lot we can share. There's so much he could have told me, and there's so much he can tell me now.
Wow, that was a very emotional video, and it is sad in the 21st century we are talking about this. Now, before we get into analyzing the video, Riziki, please make us understand what rape is, very briefly.
Okay, rape is when somebody that you have not given permission actually goes on to touch you in maybe your private parts, or go on to penetrate using any point in your body. Mm-hmm. That is rape, especially for somebody over 18, we call it rape. And when they are minors, we say they have been defiled. And they can use any form of weapon, like they can even use an object.
Wow.
So that would still be rape. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Abdinasir, very briefly, what do you understand by rape?
Rape, thank you very much, Aisha, for giving us this opportunity to come and share with our Ummah this pertinent issue that is happening within our society.
Yes.
Rape is when somebody forces himself on somebody else without the permission from another person. And most of the times we, as my sister said, rape and defilement are two different things. For rape is somebody who is adult 18 and above, and defilement is somebody who is below 18.
Yes.
So it is something that is happening. Unfortunately, we as a community, we are not coming out strongly talking about this. Yes.
Thank you so much. Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome, I will come to you. Is there anything like rape in Islam? Because whenever we speak about rape, it is always embarrassment, aib. Don't we have rape in Islam? Briefly, kindly let us know.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran, Ma farratna fil kitabi min shay. I have not left out anything in the Quran. So all these things that we see happening, they are in the religion, and there are solutions in the religion. And when we talk about rape, we are talking about, the words are very clear, forcible, illegal, sexual intercourse. So there is an element of force and an element of illegality and sexual intercourse.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. We'll be getting deeper into that matter according to Islam. Now, we just watched a very sad video, and it's a shame. But Riziki, as a psychologist dealing with victims like the one you just saw there, millions of girls out there are silent. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, what is very sad is that as a community, I think we are still having our head in the sand, and we don't want to talk about these issues.
Okay.
And what is happening is that people are suffering in silence. And most of the time, by the time they're coming maybe to see a psychologist, they'll be at a very bad place. Maybe that's the time they're suicidal, and somebody feels this person needs to see a psychologist. So these people are actually suffering, and the problem is, as a community, we are very silent on it. We don't come out strongly to talk about it. And then the saddest bit, I think it came out very clearly, is that most of the time people are not raped by strangers. Most rape, most defilement happens in our very own homes by the very people that these people know. And then the saddest bit is that you will continue seeing this person in your home and continue interacting with them and see your family members interacting with them, and you can do nothing about it. So it gets very frustrating. And by the time somebody is maybe seeking help, they are very angry with the family, they are angry with the community, they are angry with the society. And that is the time we might find somebody using a substance. Like we start using something to cope. They might start maybe, let me smoke something, or let me drink some alcohol.
To escape from reality.
To escape from this pain, because it has a deep emotional pain. Like when you talk to anybody who has gone through rape or defilement, they have a lot of deep emotional pain. The pain is more deep emotionally, even I think, than the physical pain they're going through.
Thank you so much, Sister Riziki. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to expound on this and talk much about it. Now, as I began, I said in Kenya, we host over 470,000 refugees, with the vast majority living in two camps. That is at Dadaab and Kakuma. Almost half, 49% of refugee children in Kenya are not attending school. Only less than 1/3 of refugee school children are attending secondary school. 87% of refugee youth do not have access to tertiary education. To address this growing crisis, we are using the holy month of Ramadan to mobilize the Muslims and non-Muslim community to raise funds towards educating the refugee youth in Kenya. Now, the appeal is being led by the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims in partnership with UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. There are three ways in which you can contribute. Make a donation online or via M-Pesa, that's paybill number 329378, account Ramadan, or donate via their website, that is unhcr.org/Ramadan, or engage in the mosque fundraisers across Nairobi. You can also help spread the word across social media, emails, and in conversations with each other. And of course, we all know that dua is very important. They are our brothers and sisters in Islam. Now, we will be taking a short break, and we'll be right back.
majonzi ya taifa.
Did you know?
Assalamu alaikum, jina langu ni Sumaya Hassan, NEC member wa Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims. When I think about refugee youth in Kenya, I feel that if I was in their shoes and I was the one in the camp, I would want my Muslim brothers and sisters out there to come together and help me get an education. And therefore, I want to say to them that we have not forgotten them, and we, their Muslim brothers and sisters, will come together and raise funds to help the refugee youth get an education. To help us make this dua a reality, please join us in donating whatever you can towards this Ramadan appeal for educating refugees in Kenya. Remember, nothing is too small.
After much success in Nairobi and Kisumu, Global Expo is now coming to Eldoret from the 24th May till 9th June 2019 in Gulab Loshab Academy Hall to exhibit high-quality products such as carpets, clothes, furniture, kitchenware, cosmetics.
Ramadan Timetable is brought to you by the Labbaik account from First Community Bank. Open a Labbaik account with First Community Bank and save for Hajj. First Community Bank, driven by ethics. Ramadan Timetable is brought to you by the Labbaik account from First Community Bank. Open a Labbaik account with First Community Bank and save for Hajj. First Community Bank, driven by ethics.
La 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 la, la 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 la.
Ramadan Timetable is brought to you by the Labbaik account from First Community Bank. Open a Labbaik account with First Community Bank and save for Hajj. First Community Bank, driven by ethics.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the show. This is the Round Table with me, Aisha Khan, and today we are talking about rape, the great injustice. Now back to you, Sister Riziki. You are talking about how our Muslim community is very conservative.
Yes, like when we were talking about this rape, most of the time it's not something somebody feels they can go and share it out. And for me, the saddest bit is from the people I've worked with. Most of the times you might ask them, did you go to somebody and report? And most of the time they say no. Why? Because they feel they would not be believed. So for me, that is really scary, because if a child cannot talk to the parent and fears that they will not be believed, that's very scary. Like, what is the position of the child and the parent? The other one is where they're told they shut it up, like, we don't talk about this, and it's not
what happened in the video.
Exactly what she said. That is very, very common, very common. And they're told this is aibu, so we don't discuss this. So it's actually swept under the carpet, and nobody cares about your pain. You deal with it until, like, most of them will come in as adult women when they're coming to see me, and they're coming and they're talking about the pain they're still harboring within them, and the hatred they have towards certain members of their family. And also they feel the community has let them down. And at that point when they're coming, most of them could even be very suicidal or even suffering depression and other mental illnesses.
Now, Sister Riziki, I have a question for you. You as a psychologist, what do you get told? You're doing, in this community of ours, I know you're the enemy. What do you get to hear?
Okay, we do get to be told maybe when you bring out an issue, like maybe you're telling a parent, I've spoken to your daughter and your daughter says this and this has happened, and the person will tell you, you're not a Muslim.
Wow.
This is Aib, we don't discuss this. Wewe, are you a Muslim? So actually the first thing is you're questioned about your Islam, like how can you bring out such a point to me? Are you really a Muslim? And especially if I'm talking to both parents where the father is also present, like I'm trying to bring out this is what has happened. Your daughter is claiming this. And then the next thing we'll be told is, can we like try and cover it up in a way that we don't discuss this? So usually what I feel very painful, like I find very painful is nobody is asking, how is this person, when she talked to you, what is her pain? So I'm thinking as a parent, that's the first thing the parent will want to know. What is my daughter feeling like? How much pain is she in? What can I do about this pain? Unfortunately, even the perpetrator, I don't find them angry at the perpetrator. And it will just be like, how can we cover this up?
Wow.
So let's cover this up. We don't care about this victim. The victim is not usually a subject we want to discuss.
It's always let's cover it up and let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's cover this up and move on, yes.
Amazing. As a human rights activist, Abdinasir Adan, you've watched the clip. Now you are from the northeastern region. What is happening there?
Thank you for asking that question. This thing is something that is happening, and unfortunately the Muslim community and the community, especially from that part of the country, are very much conservative. And this thing is something that is happening, and sadly it is something that's happening within our homes. Close family members are the ones that are inflicting this great shame and pain on kids, because most of the cases are children under the age of 18. And according to the laws, the regular laws in this country, is that rape cannot be rape. The threshold is penetration. So whatever you use, whether you use your organs or not, it is the yardstick to measure what rape is. So it is something that is happening. Unfortunately, nobody is coming out, unless you only see 1 or 2 cases where people just report, but most of the times nobody reports. It is something that we as a Muslim community, we need to collectively address, because this thing needs awareness, which we are trying to do, although it is a bit taboo in the community. So, but we are trying to use the laws, the existing laws, as well as the government agencies, because at times in northern Kenya, there's this issue to do with the Maslaha system, which to some extent, the laws of the country, Article 159 of the Kenyan Constitution, under the alternative,
we shall come to that deeply,
is trying to address. But I think it's something that's happening, and as a Muslim community, we need to address this thing. Yes.
Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome, you watched the video. As a father, she just mentioned that if her father was there for her, she would not have gone through what she did.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, one thing now, looking at that video and now talking from the Islamic perspective and listening to what is being said here, we should keep quiet about it. It is aib. I want our viewers to note the following. Number one, we as the Muslim community, we have been ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that our primary duty in this world is al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil. If this is evil and it is evil, then we are supposed to prohibit it. Again, we have been ordered to make nusrat madlum, a person who is oppressed, we have to rescue them. That child, that woman who against her will has been forced into this is madluma. If we do not stand by her, this is a sin before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a munkar in the society. I know, we are told when you see a shameful thing with your brother or your sister, you should not expose it. We need to distinguish between a crime and something that is shameful. Okay? Shameful is when somebody is weak of iman, they do this and that which is wrong.
Yes.
Then you try to cover them up. You give them advice quietly. But not a criminal. There is no difference between a rapist, a murderer, a thief. Now, are we going to say it's aibe to say this is the thief? That person has to be punished. And you know, punishment under the laws of the country, under Islamic law, it's not an end in itself. One of the benefits of punishment is what we call deterring other people. Punishment is deterrence.
Yes.
How? Tomorrow, if somebody else who maybe had the intentions of committing that offense remembers that so and so committed that offense and this was the consequence, they will not do it. But now, aibe, and we keep quiet. First of all, that innocent person, weak, who is madhluma, and we don't stand by her, what are we going to tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Thank you. And we are told, we keep on talking about taqwa. We are told in the Quran, i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa. Do justice, and that is close to God-fearing. So you hide it because of our community, the name of our community and the rest, and you keep on praying and fasting and giving zakah and going for hajj every year because you want to be pious. You're told doing justice is close to piety. This is the way I want to look
Sheikh, I want to just interrupt you there. There is a recent case in Kibra that has been all over the news. So we have this grandfather, a 13-year-old girl who has been raped twice, okay? And her grandmother, who is the wife to the grandfather, has been, you know, part of this play, taking her to do the abortion. Today, it's come to the media and she is 3 months pregnant. All over the news, she's very open about it. Now, Sheikh, this brings me to another point where we have our religious leaders. And I'm not condemning all religious leaders, but there are some who are using Islam, especially parents out there are scared to send their children. They're using their position. For example, we take them to madrasa. I would be scared to take...
Say misuse, don't say use.
Yes,
Islam.
they're misusing. They're misusing Islam.
Yes.
And, you know, when we speak about such issues, someone will walk up and say, oh, you know, maybe his iman was low, or let's not talk about it, or he has responsibilities.
Yes.
What can we say about
Tomorrow somebody will murder and will say, oh, maybe he was drunk, maybe he was high on something. Somebody else will steal, oh no, he was high on something. Then there will be no laws in Islam. There will be no laws at all if you are going to give that excuse. A person has committed a crime, the law has to take its course. Whether it is the law of the land or the Islamic law. Punishment has to be meted out on that person. They have to pay for what they have done. Now, this young girl now, raped by a person she trusted so much, the grandfather. And then now her life is destroyed. She's carrying a child. I don't know whether the abortion was carried out, because this is another crime also. If the abortion has been carried out now, they've added now injury to whatever they have done, because this is an illegal. Under Islamic law, it is haram, and also under the laws of the country, it is haram. Now, we are not supposed to look at crime like that, that we hide. Again, you said here, religious leaders and the rest. In every community, we have evil people.
True.
So, even the scholars, the religious scholars, they're not angels. A few, we could have some rotten fish among them. Just like we are hearing in the churches and in every community. So it can be my community, any other community, but we have to talk about an evil, whatever it is. And if somebody feels that we should keep quiet about it, I want to challenge that person. What part of religion are you using to say we should cover up criminals? Criminals are not supposed to be covered up. When we know, we are supposed to give nasiha for those who maybe are thinking of doing such a thing. But those who have already committed it, there is no nasiha for them. It is punishment in Islam. So we need to distinguish between some things that are shameful and also things that are criminal, and also something that, you know, like destroying the entire life of this innocent person.
True.
And we let them go scot-free just because it's aibe. Give me a break, Aisha. That is not the Islam I know. That is something else. And it's misuse of position.
Yes.
misuse of religion, because religion does not condone that. That position you have been given, it's a position of responsibility. That's why people entrust you with their
Very
children.
true.
If you misuse it,
Yes.
the laws will catch up with you.
Thank
and they
you
should.
very much for that, Sheikh. Now on to human rights. As a human rights activist, you're there on the ground. I'll go back to Northeastern. What are some of the alternative methods people there are using to resolve these disputes apart from going to court?
First, it is important to note that alternative dispute resolution is one of the mechanisms that the Constitution of Kenya and that Article 159 recognizes as one of the ways of which to seek justice. But then it has some restrictions, because once a crime or an act of offense is committed, it should not be repugnant to justice, and it should not defeat justice in any way. For example, rape, defilement are criminal acts that should not be used. I mean, maslaha or ADR
Now,
should not
onto
be used.
maslah.
Yeah.
Onto maslah.
Yes.
I want to know what it is and what is happening.
Maslaha is, I think, Sheikh Lithome can also explain more on it. Is, I think, maslaha is an Arabic word that means to bring sanity or to bring reconciliation. Yeah, it's just the same as alternative dispute resolution, reconciliation, negotiation, and those kind of stuff. But then, at times, some community leaders or elders use, for example, cases of rape, defilement to settle scores. So a young girl is being defiled, or an adult is being raped. They're going to use masala system to settle scores. Maybe some camels or goats or.
And what are the effects to the community?
I think it is something that should not be encouraged, because what will become of this lady? What of that criminal who has meted that pain, that subjugation, that shameful act on that little girl? Tomorrow he will be scot-free, and then he will go and do the same mistake,
And
knowing
it will
that
continue to
his
spread.
clan or community will go and pay again a lot of camels. So it's something.
So they exchange camels and money and
goats
cows.
and those kind of stuff, which we are trying to discourage, because it's something that is not even Islamic. It is even unconstitutional, because the laws of the land doesn't recognize that, because it is repugnant to justice and also against the morals of the country as well.
Abdinasir, thank you so much for that, because in the third segment we'll go into the law and Islamic law too. Now, Riziki, you have just heard, what is happening. What is your opinion? This is after the break. I want you to tell me what you think. Do you think masla is good, because you deal with the victims directly? Now, we will be taking a short break. Do not move a muscle, because today's topic is very, very deep. So stay tuned.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abdullah Abdi. I am the chairman of NAMLEF, which is short for National Muslim Leaders Forum of Kenya. The holy month of Ramadan is the time when we do a self-assessment of our contributions to mankind and humanity. We have got thousands of refugee children who don't get education. Imagine if your child could not go to school. My appeal to you, my brothers and sisters, is this is the time for us to rise up. It's a moral obligation of each one of us here in Kenya as Muslims during this month for us to recognize this gap and for us to contribute generously so that we will be able to assist refugee children to further their education. We owe these children, we owe this future generation that we stand up now
Kurunzi ya Taifa.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the round table with me, Aisha Khan. Now, the topic of discussion today is rape, the greatest injustice. Yes, Sister Riziki, I asked you about the psychological effects, and to just add and beef it up, what are the causes and the effects to the victim?
Okay, first let's start with the physical effects. Like we had the girl saying she was bleeding, she was in a lot of pain. So there is a likelihood of somebody actually transmitting a sexually transmitted disease to this person. They could give them hepatitis, they could give them HIV, and any other serious sexual transmitted disease.
Yes.
They could also get pregnant, which could also lead to other complications. So some of the physical effects. And coming to the psychological and emotional effects, most of these victims, like after they go through this, they have a sense of guilt. They start even blaming themselves. They feel like they're the ones who took themselves to that place, that is why it happened. So they start having shame and guilt. So when I'm having shame and guilt, my self-esteem definitely goes down. So their self-esteem will be low, their self-confidence is low, and they have a poor self-image. Like even when they look at themselves, they feel like they're not okay, there's just something not right. And then their sense of worth goes down, like they feel they're very worthless. So it's very easy for such a person now to go on and engage more easily in sexual relationships with many other people because they don't feel like they have a sense of worth anymore. So imagine if it's a minor, they start early sexual relationships at a very early age, and they could go on to even become call girls and something like that. The other thing is they get a psychological illness. So some of them might get a mood disorder where they go into depression, and in the depression they could become suicidal. And most of the cases I actually get to see is when they are highly depressed and very suicidal. Others might get post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. PTSD is caused by a traumatic event, something traumatic happening to you. Then later on you start having these symptoms of PTSD. PTSD is actually an anxiety disorder. So they also get to have anxiety disorders. They are very hypervigilant. They are always not feeling safe. And once they have this PTSD, they also could go into a depression and a lot of anger outbursts. And these are people who at times we hear committed a very serious crime, that someone might just take a knife one day and kill another person because already they are feeling like there's something just wrong. And PTSD is quite severe, and most people go around with it untreated. Others might decide now to go into substance use so that they can cope with it. So some people we see using substance use are actually camouflaging their pain and trying to come to terms with what happened. Now, what are the causes? It's very unfortunate that in our community we have a very high divorce rate, which the Qadis are talking about. And when there is divorce, the parents will go their ways, and the children now are the ones now subjected.
Just as the girl said.
Yes, just as the girl said. Actually, she's a perfect case study. Because what happens is after this divorce, the child might either go with the father or with the mother and have to live with relatives. And
or the stepmother.
Or the stepmother. And I always say when a lion is hunting its prey, it looks for the weakest to go to pounce on, because it's very sure that I can pounce on this one because it's the weakest or the one left behind by the other herd. So the same thing, this predator who is a rapist will also have looked to know which person here can I attack. So they know who to attack. And mostly it is these children whose parents either have died, orphans, like the Kibira case, I think the girl is an orphan, or it could be now a child whose parents have divorced and they're living with different family members. And one thing I think we are forgetting is that the boy child also gets raped. And is also defiled. So rape doesn't have gender, it happens on both sides. So even the boy child gets raped. So all these things, like for me, the divorce and how we look at kids and the way we divide them, and also who are the people we allow in our homes. I have always said as a parent, you have a duty to protect your child from any form of abuse. So who are the people we allow into our homesteads? And when we get visitors, we are very comfortable to lock them into the bedroom with our children. Like we'll have them sleep in the same room with the visitors. And we are very okay with that because that is my cousin or that is my brother. It's very unfortunate, and I think I would like to bring it to this reality that most of these victims talk of relatives. It's very rare when they're talking about strangers. They talk of the relatives that come into their homes. So it's us now to ask ourselves, how do I protect my children? And if we are divorcing, how do we cushion our children from these effects? Because it now becomes a vicious cycle. Because if this child has now been defiled and their self-worth is very low, their self-confidence is very low. Definitely in school they'll not be performing very well. The teachers will have noticed something. So if this person goes again and gets married, they are very likely also to go into a divorce. So it becomes a vicious cycle that needs to be broken.
Thank you so much for that, Sister Riziki. Now, I will go to talking about the refugees. And in Kenya, we host over 470 refugees with vast majority living in 2 camps. That is at Dadaab and Kakuma. Almost half, 49% of refugee children in Kenya are not attending school. Only less than 1/3 of refugee school children are attending secondary school. 87% of refugee youth do not have access to tertiary education. To address this growing crisis, we are using the holy month of Ramadan to mobilize the Muslims and the non-Muslims to raise funds towards this cause. Now, the appeal is being led by Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims in partnership with UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. There are 3 ways in which you can donate: through M-Pesa, that is the pay bill number 329378, or you can donate on unhcr.org/Ramadan. You can also engage in mosque fundraising, and also you can spread the word from a brother to a sister, because these are brothers and sisters in Islam. Now back to the conversation. Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome, we were talking about maslah. Now, in Islam, is that acceptable? Because communities are using this alternative means to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, Islam is always for maslaha, reconciliation.
Sheikh Ibrahim, the
Islam
mic.
is always for maslaha.
Yes.
That is reconciliation.
Yes.
But not at the expense of justice. When there is injustice, there can be no maslaha. Okay.
What should be done?
Justice should be. The person who has committed the crime has to be punished. That is justice. If there are damages that have been caused, then there has to be compensation. And maslaha, my understanding, remember, in my other life, I'm also a lawyer. And I will tell you clearly, with no uncertainty, that the law recognizes alternative dispute resolution mechanism, but not in criminal cases. It's in civil matters. But now we have stretched it to include even criminal matters. This is a crime. It has to be dealt with according to the law. And the maslaha, who are sitting in the maslaha? Mostly it's men sitting there. And you find, because tomorrow they fear they might fall victims of the same, they want to protect others there. So it's unfair. It's good to have maslaha, but they have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they should do justice. And not in criminal cases, the criminal has to pay for their crimes. And let me very quickly look at it now purely from a fiqhi point of view. I said here, elements in it: sexual intercourse, forceful, illegal. So it is with a person with whom you have no right under the law to have sex. So it makes it illegal under Islamic law, haram. Okay? Then on top of it, another crime, force. So there are 2 crimes in rape according to Islamic law. There is the zina, because this is illegal. Number 2, there is force. And if there is physical harm, besides also the psychological harm, which for me, it's very long term, and it's even worse than the physical. Again, this is a crime. So whichever way you look at it, it's called actually under Islamic law, zina bil ikrah. You're committing zina because you're not supposed to have sexual relationship with this person, whether it's a man or a woman. On top of it, you have used force. So it is haram under Islam, and it is punishable. 2 punishments. One, the punishment of zina. On top of it, the punishment of ightisab. We call it ightisab. And some scholars have said it very clearly. If the rapist is not married, then he's supposed to get the 10 lashes, 100 lashes, 100. On top of that now, he has to be punished again for the use of force. And if he's a person who is married, of course he will not be there now to be given the second punishment. He will face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that. He will be now stoned to death. That is the punishment. I have read in some classic books.
Sheikh Ibrahim, there's a call coming in.
Okay.
We'll continue with the conversation. Hello, Horizon TV.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Hello, Horizon TV.
Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Who am I speaking to and where are you calling from?
Napiga kutoka Pumwani, Riadha Majengo.
Naam.
Naitwa Ibrahim Jogu Osman Bey.
Naam, Ibrahim, swali lako?
Swali ni kuchangia. Ni kuchangia kwa hiyo maneno ustadha amesema sahihi.
Naam.
Ya mtu yote ambaye kwamba anafanya dhulma sampuli hiyo. Anafaa hukumu hiyo ustadha anasema. Na mababa na mamama wanafaa waulizwe watoto wakiolewa, kwa nini mtoto wako si bikra? Kwa sababu kullukum ra'i wa kullukum mas'uli an ra'i. Baba ataulizwa kwa mtoto, mama ataulizwa kwa mtoto. Na hao ndio walimu wetu wa kwanza. Kwa hivyo wakitii Mwenyezi Mungu, hata sisi watoto wao tutatii. Lakini wakiwa wao watatuonesha maasi na wachangie maasi. Kama vile huyo msichana babake na watu wake wa karibu walichangia maasi.
Naam.
Ule msichana atazidi akichukia Uislamu na akichukia wanaume maisha yote.
Kweli sana.
Kwa hivyo tumuogope Mungu na tufuate Qur'ani na sunna ya Mtume.
Naam.
Kwa sababu mtoto akiolewa akiwa bikra, wewe unaenda peponi.
Naam.
Na je, akiolewa yeye si bikra na wewe ni mzazi wake?
Naam.
Na kumuonyesha njia utaenda wapi?
Kweli sana. Shukran sana Ibrahim kutoka Pumwani. Endelea kutazama Horizon TV. Naam, Sheikh, back to you.
The punishment here is supposed to be the punishment of zina. And I was saying, if the rapist is a married person, we know under Islamic law, people might call it barbaric, but that is the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he best knows what is good for us.
Yes.
Stoned to death. And after that, now, of course, you cannot punish the body. You'll bury, but you know, he still has something else he has not done. Yeah.
Now, Sheikh, we're living in Kenya. We have the laws guiding us.
Yes.
Now, we have our Islamic law. At the same time, we have the Kenyan law.
Yes.
So, if someone rapes, if a rapist commits a sin today, what should be done to him?
Of course, take them to the police station. Let them be charged under the laws. We have the Sexual Offences Act and the Penal Code. And they will be, these are criminals actually, they will be treated as criminals, and the penalty is heavy, and especially if it is defilement, because this is a child. Unfortunately now here, and this is now where the divergence is between Islamic law and the secular laws. In secular law, the element of consent can change it. But in Islam, the element of consent does not come in here. You can never even bring it because it's still an offense of zina here. So there is a difference here between Islam and then. But the penalty is so heavy under the laws of Kenya. I wish it was heavier. I remember there's a time one of the sitting justices, Justice Njoki Ndongo, had actually proposed a very severe punishment, and I supported it. People might call it barbaric, that they should be chemically castrated, these people. For me, it should be severe punishment such that it is a lesson to others. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. Now to you, Sister Riziki. Before I come to you, there's a call coming in. Hello, Horizon TV.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Yeah, Mariam, I want to contribute on the issue of race.
Yes, Mariam. Please lower your volume. Hello, Mariam. I can hear you.
Hello.
No, Mariam.
Yeah. TV on.
I cannot hear you well, Mariam. Please lower the volume of your television.
It's not the television is not my own. Maybe I don't know maybe, but TV.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear now. How would you like to contribute to today's topic of discussion?
No, thank you very much. This is a very topical issue. And it's good that as Muslims we continue talking about the problem of rape and defilement in our midst.
Yes.
Because it is one thing that we like closing our eyes on. We want to walk around like this whitewashed tomb. We want to pretend that rape and defilement don't happen. So thank you very much for giving us the chance and for calling this very qualified panel. I want to talk about the maslaha.
Yes.
Maslaha in the Somali community. Yes, it does some things that are good, but it is a very, it's an area that is a lot of injustice happens when there is criminal cases. And I would like the panel to appeal to the ODPP to make make it clear that ADR is not for criminal cases. I think that's one thing we have lost. For maslaha, it is only men who actually sit under the tree to discuss cases. There is no appeal. Women do not present themselves there. Children and men from minority clans are not represented also. And when they take the case, they have a guiding principle like an ayah, which says, he who makes a law is bound by that law. So they make it so lenient. Even when they have to respond to cases, they make it so lenient. Ni kama wanaipangia kesho ikiwa ni wewe ama iwe ni mwanaume from your clan ama if it is your son. And that is not how justice is handled. That is not Islamic. We need to face maslaha for all the other good things it is doing, but the bad things it is doing when it comes to rape, defilement, and murder. Thank you.
Naam, thank you so much, Mariam. Keep watching Horizon TV. Naam, Sheikh, before I go to Sister Riziki, what do you have to say about that?
That comment, I think, I want to agree with that comment from Mariam. Yes. I think she is from the community and she knows exactly what she's talking about. Yeah. That the maslaha actually is supposed to deal with civil matters. That has to be very clear. When there is a crime, I think here justice has to be sought and the law has to take its course. Yeah, both the Islamic law, if it is in a country where Islamic law is applicable, or the laws of the land, the perpetrator has to be punished. Again, most of the people who are raped are children. Now tell me, you go there and sit down and negotiate. The victim is not party to that negotiation. Can you then see the injustice here? People, if there is anybody who supports maslaha to do such a thing, and especially where children are concerned, and you're watching this program, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For those innocent children who are so weak, they are expecting us to protect them. And the laws are supposed to be there so that we protect them. I think because of time, I'll stop there. But again, I want you to tell your director, we need more time for such topics. There is a lot we have not covered.
Very true, Sheikh. And we are going to have a part 2, inshallah, after Ramadan. Now, Abdinasir, what precautions can we take?
Before precautions, it is important to note that there are certain things that handlers of children or people who have been raped to do. For example, if you go and rescue, there are certain things, there's some evidence that you need to keep it safe, because for example there is that maybe semen that this guy might have deposited into this innocent person.
Yes, that
can be a very crucial evidence for the case, maybe if this case can go forward. So it is important for us Muslims to do awareness to such kind of cases. That's one. Number two, as the Sheikh has said, maslaha cannot be used in terms of because in criminal matters, this one is absolutely criminal. You don't have to use that. There are laws, Criminal Procedure Code, Penal Code, and Sexual Offense Act are there to protect victims of rape and also defilement. So if I come to precautions, is that I think, as I said, it is important to create awareness.
Yes.
And unfortunately, our parents are burying their heads in the sand. It's not we have reached that time when we need to talk for our children, when we need to wake up and say this thing is aib. There's no aib in rape, because you're destroying the life, the entire life of these children or these adults.
Yes.
So it is important for us. The precaution bit of it is that, one, we need to come out from our hidings and say enough is enough.
Yes.
And especially for those communities who are using maslaha for these criminal elements. Yes, if people fight, if a husband and a wife fight, yes, you can use maslaha.
Yes.
But then...
But not when domestic violence again here?
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of misunderstanding, small misunderstandings, not fight. Yes,
but where there is criminal, we cannot use it.
We must use the laws that are there. Lastly,
very briefly.
Yeah, lastly, which I'll be very brief, is about we need to wake up as a community, because we don't need to hide these things. And it is time these elders, these leaders within the communities, to be apprehended, and they should face the full force of law.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Riziki, you dealing with these girls, you know what they go through. And now there are victims out there who have not talked about it. There are victims like the video I just played, the interview I did. The girl feels worthless. What is your message to them out there? How can we save them? Is there hope? Very briefly.
There's hope. So the message out to the community is, let's not bury our sand. Let us acknowledge that this problem is here with us. And we, the Muslims, are not immune to this problem. And that they are professional people who can work with them, walk with them until they get healing. So we should not wait until when they are suicidal, because most of the time I get to see them when they are now suicidal. So let's help them at a very early stage. If they are children, they get therapy, then they can get well. So the most important thing is that there is life after rape. So somebody can still go on to lead a normal life, and they need to seek help.
Thank you so much, Sister Riziki. Thank you so much for coming. Yes. Very briefly.
A very important point I should add. Scholars and learned people like Sheikh Lithome and other subcom leaders and Namlef, we want to carry out awareness program on the same, on maslaha and all this kind of rep. We have a group of lawyers who want to go into the community and do this kind of activity, and I hope it's important for us to join hands and teach our people about this kind of things that's happening within our community.
Thank you so much. We'll have a further discussion. Thank you so much for coming and talking about this pertinent issue. Now, before I give you my last words, again, I'm reminding you that in Kenya we host over 470,000 refugees, with the vast majority living in the two camps, that is at Dadaab and Kakuma. Almost half, 49% of refugee children in Kenya are not attending school. Only less than 1/3 of refugee school children are attending secondary school. 87% of refugee youth do not have access to tertiary education. Now, to address this growing issue, we are using this holy month of Ramadan to sensitize this issue. Now, the appeal is led by the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims in partnership with UNHCR and the UN Refugee Agency. Now, there are 3 ways in which you can contribute. Firstly, that is M-Pesa. The pay bill number is 329378. Account Ramadan. Or you can make a donation online, that is at unhcr.org/Ramadan, or you can engage in mosque fundraisers across Nairobi. And lastly, you can help spread the word, because we are all in this together. Now, my last words to end this roundtable, and I repeat, this is not the end of these conversations. We are going to be talking about these thorny issues after Ramadan. It may be the last episode, but you will see me back. And Horizon TV is here to talk about it. Now, in Islam, a woman's chastity has to be respected under all circumstances, no matter what. Yes? Because whether she belongs to our religion or she does not, whether she's in a forest or she's in a conquered place, at the end of the day, under no circumstance can you abuse her. I've been your host, Aisha Khan, and this has been the Roundtable. Now, tomorrow, do not forget to tune in to the Tunu Toto Show with Ibtisam Jamal, because Horizon TV is here for you and your Totos. And we'll be seeing you on Eid Day. Stay tuned.